Hello and good evening, friends, and welcome to the Week 17 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday. I am your host, Anthony Florio, joined, as always, by good old MF, Michael Fletcher. We are awaiting the presence of Michael Bullock. If he comes in, we'll catch him up on what he missed. If not, then we'll hopefully have him back with us on Tuesday night for our special Tuesday night edition of Ridiculously Raw. Our final broadcast of 2023. What a year it has been. And I can't think of a better way to close it out than to get into week number 17 of the NFL season, the penultimate week of the regular season. We got one more week left after this, the all divisional week, which we'll get into which every game is a divisional game, and we'll get into all of that next week. But for right now, let's dive into week number 17. The show must be asked backwards tonight because we got two main events starting this thing right out of the box. And we started off with the game that will take place tomorrow night at 8:15 on ESPN, a special Saturday night edition of Monday Night Football, because of the fact that Monday night, New Year's night, is all about the college football playoffs, and rightfully so. Monday Night Football has been moved to Saturday night, and it will be that way for the next 2 weeks. Starting tomorrow night with the game of the week on the NFC side of the ledger, big one here. The Detroit Lions squaring off against the Dallas Cowboys, AT&T Stadium, Arlington, Texas. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Lisa Salters, they will be on the call for that one. Dallas opening up as a 5.5-point favorite. And the series history between these two, it favors the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas leads the all-time regular season series 16-11. Their last meeting was last year in Dallas, and the Cowboys won that game by a score of 24-6. Including playoffs, the Dallas Cowboys have won 5 straight meetings with the Detroit Lions. They've won 5 in a row, including a playoff game. The Lions last beat the Cowboys in 2013 in Detroit, 31-30. And the Lions' last win in Dallas was in 2011, 34-30. So massive stakes in this one. So with all that being said, let's dive right into week number 17. The Cowboys need a win to keep their NFC East title hopes alive, but maybe more importantly, need a win to stop a 2-game losing streak and to beat a quality team going into the playoffs. The Lions still have home field advantage dreams and a triumph against a playoff-bound team, a December triumph against a playoff-bound team. Both teams excel indoors. The Cowboys are 7-0 at home, 7-1 overall, and the Lions are 7-2. Lions quarterback Jared Goff will eclipse the 30,000-yard passing mark for his career with 200-plus yards at Dallas. He needs 162 yards to become the league's 53rd player to hit the mark. Goff has played his best football against non-divisional opponents with an 8-2 record and 20 touchdowns to just 4 interceptions. Goff has the third most turnovers under pressure this season with 10. Tomorrow night, he'll face a Cowboy defense that leads the league in pressure percentage, 37. The X Factor, Lions defensive back Brian Branch. He mostly plays in the slot, which means he'll draw his fair share of covering receiver CeeDee Lamb. But Branch is up for the challenge. He has allowed a better-than-average 1.0 yards per coverage snap allowed and leads all rookies with minus 19 EPA against when the nearest defender per NFL Next Gen stats. What's at stake? A lot. A loss to the Lions would severely limit the Cowboys' opportunity to win the NFC East, as their chances would fall from 24% with a win to 2% with a loss. The Cowboys' chances of home field advantage and that first round bye in the NFC playoffs would be 1.2% with a win and non-existent with a loss. As for the Lions, they have the NFC North wrapped up, but a win gives them a 30% chance of getting the number 1 seed. A loss will prevent Detroit from getting the number 1 seed. The Lions defense has allowed the 8th most receiving yards and the 4th most touchdowns to wide receivers this season. Lamb is an immediate beneficiary, but don't overlook Brandon Cooks. At home, the Cowboys averaged 303 passing yards, second most in the league. Lions games are 10-5 to the over this season, tied for the highest over percentage in the NFL. The FPI likes Dallas in this one. They don't just like Dallas, they love Dallas. 70% going with the Dallas Cowboys by an average of 7 points. I got to go with the Dallas Cowboys as well, considering how much tougher they are in Jerry World. So it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a great game, but I think Dallas is going to pull this one out. 30-27, Dallas defeats Detroit. But do not be surprised if Detroit somehow, some way steals this one. So not much more to say here. MF, right on cue. Come on in. Detroit, Dallas kicking off week 17. NFC game of the week right here.
Yes, absolutely. And this is a big one, no doubt about it. If you're the Dallas Cowboys, you're stinging from the 2 losses, a blowout loss to the Buffalo Bills, and then a heartbreaker to the Miami Dolphins a week ago. That put them in a position where they could have been a lot more better than when they were. But unfortunately, they gave it right back. So now they're chasing the Philadelphia Eagles after their big win on Christmas Day. And as far as Detroit goes, they've done it. They made history for the first time in almost since like 1993. They're going to be not only in the playoffs, but they're going to be representing the NFC North as their division champions. That is a remarkable feat, an incredible story, to say the very least. And without a doubt, truly, if you're a Lions fan, you're thinking, the rich, you're playing with fool's gold right now, more than anything else. So yes, you're going into this game already clinched the division. Now you're thinking, hey, we got a shot at number 1 overall. We need a couple things to go our way, and we could definitely get there. So we'll wait and see how it plays out. But here's the problem. Everybody knows Dallas never plays good on the road. We saw that very apparently where they go and they play a lot more not as great. Dallas averages almost 40 points a game in AT&T Stadium. And on top of that, they beat their opponents by more than 3 touchdowns. This is Dallas in a nutshell. The Cowboys don't play great on the road, but when they're at Jerry World, when they're home, they are virtually unbeatable. They beat the Eagles at home, and not only won it, they beat them pretty handily by like at least 2 touchdowns. We saw what they did to the Washington Commanders on Thanksgiving, literally blew them out. So I'm sorry, Anthony. I know you say, oh, it's going to be close. It's going to be close. I don't think it's going to be as close as many people think. Dallas is angry. Dallas is going to come after Detroit, and they're going to go for their throat. And they're going to try to beat them down, embarrass them. Yes, you won the division, but that doesn't mean squat to us. Dallas needs this more than Detroit, virtually and literally, because if you want to win the NFC East, you need to win this game. You lose this game, you literally give the division to the Eagles on a silver platter. So, no. To me, it's not even a foregone conclusion. Dallas wins by at least 2 to 3 touchdowns. I think Dallas is going to make a statement. They are going to blow out Detroit, and they are going to show the league that, yes, we had a couple of hiccups. Yes, we lost to Miami and Buffalo, but let's be realistic. We're still the freaking Cowboys, and that's what's going to happen tomorrow night. Michael Bullock, welcome to the show. This is the first game of the day. We're going with We're doing Dallas and Detroit, a special Saturday night NFL action. It's yours.
Man, I mean, Man, I don't know what else is there to say after that. I mean, I'm sorry, I mean, look, I got Dallas winning as well, but I think it's going to be close because, look, I mean, Detroit's still playing for something here. Yes, they did win the division, but they still have a chance at the number one seed. Yes, it's a long shot, but they uh, they still have a chance to get that number one seed. The thing they got to do, I mean, they just got to win out and hope for some good things to go their way. I mean, but could you imagine? I mean, if all the things go Detroit's way and they get the number one seed, you want to talk about ultimate turnarounds? This would be the ultimate turnaround season. I mean, yes, winning the division for the first time in 30 years, that's one thing. But if they were to somehow pull it off and get the number one seed, that would be the ultimate turnaround. And we knew this Lions team had a chance to be a good team, but I think they're really making believers out of everyone, and they're even making a believer out of me. I mean, I mean, and they also have a chance to have a home game, a home playoff game for the first time in the history of Ford Field. And I know some people are going to be like, what about the Super Bowl when it was at Ford Field? Like, no, that was a neutral site for the so for them to have a potential home playoff game.
They are guaranteed a home playoff game because
Yeah,
they are division champions. So they automatically do get a home
yeah,
playoff game no matter what.
yeah. But can you imagine what that atmosphere is going to be like for that first home playoff game in the history of Ford Field? Oh man, that's going to be something. That is absolutely going to be something. So they still have some things to play for. Yes, I think Dallas is going to win, but I think because of what's at stake for Detroit, I think they'll make a game of it. But yeah, Dallas really needs to win this if they still have a chance to win the NFC East and still have a chance at the number one seed themselves. So it's going to be a really good game, but I think it's going to be close. On the contrary to what good old MF Michael Fletcher said. So Dallas wins. Let's move on to the Sunday slate, Florio.
And we started off with, without a doubt, the biggest 1:00 game in the history of 1:00 games. It is beyond me why this game is still in this position. But, New Year's Eve, holiday plans, yada, yada. I get it. They didn't want to, tanker with it. I get it. But this game is not worthy of a 1:00 spot. It's not. It should be at the least 425. Heck, this could have been Sunday Night Football right here. It should have been Sunday Night Football, honestly. A game of this magnitude in a 1:00 hole? Whatever. Well, but here we go. But nonetheless, that's my only small little complaint about it. But other than that, oh my goodness. Not just the AFC game of the week, not just the game of the week on our side of the ledger, but this is the game of the week for week number 17 right here. You thought that last game had high stakes? This game's got even higher stakes. It has the feel almost of a winner-take-all type game. As it will be good old MF Michael Fletcher's Miami Dolphins squaring off against the Baltimore Ravens at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland. Iron Eagle, Charles Davis, Evan Washburn, they get the call for this one. Baltimore opening up as a 3.5-point favorite. The series history is tied 8-8 in the regular season. The Dolphins have won the last 2 meetings in a row against the Ravens, including week 2 last year when the Miami Dolphins came all the way back from a 21-point deficit in the fourth quarter to stun Baltimore last year 42-38 in one of the games of the year. Miami also won in 2021 in Miami 22-10. The Ravens last beat the Dolphins in 2019, a 59-10 beatdown in Miami. And 2017 was the last time they beat them in Baltimore, a 40-0 beatdown. So you know what's at stake. And MF, you get the honors. It's only fitting because this is our game after all.
Yep.
I mean, look at this. Look at what's at stake here. Ravens win. They not only win the AFC, the road to the Super Bowl 58 in the American Football Conference would literally go through M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland.
They would get it all. Yep, they would get it all.
However, if the Miami Dolphins win, they do something they haven't done since 2008, and that is win the AFC East Division Championship. So here it is. Let's lay it out. Let's lay the cards on the table here. For the Ravens, win, they get it all. They get the North, number 1 seed. If they lose, Baltimore's chances at the number 1 seed drop down to 41%. For Miami, win, they win the AFC. A win or a Bills loss to New England, they get the AFC East. A win would also give Miami a solid shot at locking up the number 1 seed, 56%. But a loss eliminates that possibility. A loss and a Buffalo win over New England sets up a huge Week 18 winner-take-all game between Buffalo and Miami for the AFC East, and Miami would still have a 56% chance of winning the AFC East in that game. So there it is. That's the groundwork. MF, our game of the week. This is truly what the words main event were meant for, because this right here, it is the main event. Brother, it don't get no bigger. Phil Simms to my Jim Nance, more than ever, do that thing I like. Hello, friends.
Yes, this is it. I mean, the Baltimore Ravens basically became everybody's darling when they won that game over the 49ers about 1 week ago. And now everybody wants to anoint them the Super Bowl favorite. Everybody now is thinking that Lamar Jackson will be the MVP and that everything now runs through Baltimore. Baltimore is the best team in the NFL. Now, Miami answered one question. Can they beat a team with the winning record? They did. They completed their mission. They beat the Dallas Cowboys by a late field goal thanks to the game and the performance of Jason Sanders that had by far one of his best games as a Miami Dolphin. 5 field goals, 3 of them were 50-plus kicks, and of course the game winner that got them the victory and got them the playoff berth. Now, it does get more interesting now because now you're talking about a game that could decide a lot of things. Like you said, if Miami wins, they are the AFC Eastern Division champions. If you really think about it in the grand scheme of things, that's exactly what Miami wanted at the very beginning. They wanted the division. I don't think number 1 seed was ever in their future. Right now, if they should lose, it's no harm, no foul because they would still be number 2. And and once the playoffs end, Miami would at least be guaranteed 2 home playoff games at the Hard Rock, where they've only lost 1 game all season. That inexplicable defeat that they suffered against the Tennessee Titans that kind of put them in this mess in the first place. But at the end of the day, if you really looked at how Baltimore beat the 49ers, Miami's offense is a mirror image of San Francisco's offense. They like to run the football. They like to use a lot of motion offense. And you saw what Baltimore did. Now, if you're Miami, how do you beat Lamar Jackson? By basically making him one-dimensional. Now, the problem is they can throw the football. He's throwing the football a lot more consistent, a lot more better. However, you're going up against a Vic Fangio defense. And, oh, by the way, Vic Fangio knows your offense because he used to coach them. He used to coach with the Baltimore Ravens. So he knows what that offense looks like. He knows John Harbaugh's offense. So he knows what to expect. And Vic Fangio was talking about how great Lamar is and everything else. You know, you can say, oh, but he's window dressing. He's window dressing. No, he's not. He's keeping it real. He's keeping it 100. He knows what he's going to get. One big bit of news is that due to the high ankle sprain, Jalen Waddle will not play. It looks like Baltimore might lose Zay Flowers. That's a major loss on both ends. But at the end of the day, I kind of look, my heart, and you know my heart is all about Miami. And I want Miami to win this game. I want them to get the AFC East and win the division and end it now. Knowing Buffalo is red hot, you wanna hit where it hurts. You want to end it now. You don't want to go week 18 with the Buffalo Bills in Miami with everything riding on the line. And oh, by the way, I'm pretty damn sure they didn't want to give us the Sunday night game because they know Miami Buffalo will be the Sunday night game to decide the division. That's why I think they held off and did it. And quite frankly, I don't mind that they did because the last time we played in prime time, we did not do very good, Anthony Florio. As a matter of fact, the two primetime games Miami's played, we lost. So right now, I don't want to do a Sunday night game with the division on the line. No thank you on that front. I believe Baltimore will win the game because I think their defense will rise up. I think they'll force Tua into some mistakes. Look, I think it's going to be a close battle, but is it going to be similar to last year? Most likely not. And the problem is, every time you talked about Cincinnati, or I should say Baltimore, playing a game like this with everything riding on the line, they've blown the opponents out. You know, they've dominated the whole way through. So for me, even though I think it's going to be a great battle, I do believe that Baltimore will figure it out. They'll get the job done. Give me the Ravens to win. It'll be close, but I think Baltimore will get everything. The division, the 1 seed, the bye. Nothing more to say. Michael Bullock, I give it to you.
Yeah, this is definitely what the definition of a big game is. I mean, a lot at stake when it comes to this. I mean, yeah, Miami fighting to clinch the AFC East for the first time since 2008, and still fighting for a possibility of a number 1 seed. But Baltimore, I mean, you want to talk about them making a huge statement? They did that on Christmas Day night when they beat the San Francisco 49ers, and boy, I mean, they made a big time statement. Now, if this game was in Miami, I would have actually gone with your team, Fletch. I would have gone with the Miami Dolphins. But with this game in Baltimore and the way Baltimore is playing, especially after the way they made that statement against probably the best team in the NFC in the San Francisco 49ers, I think I got Baltimore winning this game. They are going to lock down everything, the AFC North and the number 1 seed. So that means for Baltimore, if that's the case, Week 18 is pretty much a meaningless game because, and I think that time you're going to see maybe the starters only play a quarter, maybe even a half, and then see the reserves come in because you want to keep everybody fresh going into their bye week. So, but for right now, Baltimore wins this one. They lock up the division and the number 1 seed. It's yours, Florio.
This is a showdown between the NFL's highest scoring offense in the Miami Dolphins, 29 offensive points a game, and the league's stingiest defense in the Baltimore Ravens, 16 points allowed a game. It's the fourth time that the number one scoring offense has faced the number one scoring defense in the final 2 weeks of the regular season since the merger in 1970. The team with the highest scoring offense has won 3 of the 4 meetings. With Dolphins wide receiver Jalen Waddle not expected to play, the Dolphins passing game will take a hit, but their run game will make up for it. Both Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane surpassed 80 rushing yards in a Miami upset win. Keep in mind that's a bold prediction. That's not my bold prediction, but the Dolphins have used motion on 82% of their offensive plays this season, highest rate in the NFL. On Sunday, Miami will face a Raven defense that has been excellent facing motion, allowing the second fewest yards per attempt, 6, and yards per rush, 5.3. The X factor, Lamar Jackson. Why? Because since week 8, the Dolphins defense ranks first in EPA per play. Miami is firing on all cylinders, and Jackson is going to have to orchestrate an offense around that dominant defense. While Jackson is largely considered an MVP candidate, he also ranks only 8th in QBR. Tua Tagovailoa has not scored 20 fantasy points since week 8 against Bullock's Patriots. The Ravens defense gives up the third fewest fantasy points a game to quarterbacks. Baltimore's defense has also given up the 6th fewest fantasy points a game to running backs. Devon Achane has been phenomenal this season, but has averaged only 11 touches over the last 3 games. And in that time frame, Raheem Mostert has averaged 17 touches. The Dolphins have failed to cover 3 straight as an underdog, as well as 3 straight as a road underdog. FPI gives the edge to Baltimore, 56% by an average of 2 points. But nonetheless, I'm going to make it unanimous. I'm going with the Baltimore Ravens to win this game as well. 24-21, Baltimore defeats Miami. But do not at all be surprised if Miami somehow, some way finds a way to steal this thing. But for right now, especially after that dominant win that MF and I saw on Christmas night against San Francisco, in San Francisco, no less, they kicked the door down at Levi's Stadium and they made themselves right at home. And you got to go with the hot hand, and that hot hand is the Baltimore Ravens. So 24-21, what a game that's going to be. It's going to be a sight. I can't wait for it. Staying in the AFC East, we move on to the next game. This game came in as our number 7 game of the week, as it will be the Buddy Bowl, as it'll be Michael Bullock's New England Patriots squaring off against my Buffalo Bills, Highmark Stadium, Orchard Park, New York, on CBS. Kevin Harlan, Trent Green, and Melanie Collins will be on the call for this one. And Bullock, I know you're not going to like what you're about to hear, but I got to mention it anyway. Excuse me. Excuse me. Buffalo opening up as a 2-touchdown favorite. 14-point spread for the Buffalo Bills. Second meeting of the season. Of course, we all know what happened in that first meeting in Foxborough in October. The New England Patriots with their biggest win of this season. And what has been a hard time season for them, hands down, that was their biggest win. That was their Super Bowl, if you will. They won in Foxborough, and they add to their all-time series lead, which is now 77-48 with a tie. Of course, last year in Buffalo, that was the first game after what had happened to Damar Hamlin. Buffalo beat New England last year in Buffalo, 35-23. They've won 2 straight in Buffalo, including that wild card playoff game when Buffalo dominated New England from start to finish, 47-17 on that bone-chilling cold night in Buffalo. New England's last win in Buffalo was 2021 on a windy Monday night when New England stole it 14-10. So what's at stake? Well, I'll tell you what. Obviously, nothing for New England because the Patriots are gone. There are 5 scenarios in which the Buffalo Bills could clinch a playoff spot. all needing a win over the Patriots. And MF, I know that's your thing. I'm not going to step on your toes on that one. I'll let you do your thing with that because you are our clinching scenario Port Authority. So I'm not even going to touch it. However, I will say this, though. Buffalo's playoff percentage would be at 97%, even if it doesn't clinch. And the Bills would still have a shot at winning their fourth straight AFC East division title, 29% next week in a head-to-head matchup with Miami if the Dolphins lose to Baltimore. A loss takes Buffalo out of the divisional race and gives them a coin flip shot at the playoffs, 50.2%. There's not much on the line for New England, who only have a 0.1% chance at the number one pick if they lose. So I'll let MF do the scenarios when we give it to him. But for right now, Michael Bullock, come on in. It's only fitting you start this off. This is our Buddy Bowl. This is our second meeting. You boys got lucky that first game in New England. I ain't going to lie. You boys got lucky. But let me tell you, you got a receipt coming. I'm telling you that right now. Going up against how hot my team has been playing lately. Yes, they nearly let one get away against the Chargers because they simply played down to them and looked past them clearly. But you did it once, but only because I was in your house. This time, you're going to Highmark, and you know what that means. You're going to have to deal with 60 to 70,000 angry, cranked up, hyped up members of Bills Mafia. Good luck.
Yeah, we already know that, especially after what happened in that wild card game during the 2021 season. We already know what that atmosphere is going to be like. And yeah, I mean, you know, this team wants revenge. And the thing is, the Patriots are dealing with a different Bills offense because ever since they fired Ken Dorsey and brought in Joe Brady, this Bills offense has looked so different, and they look like that Bills team that has won the division 3 years in a row. I think it is. Could be looking at 4 if they beat Miami next week. But right now they got to focus on the Patriots here, and what an emotional win for the Patriots. I mean, on Christmas night or Christmas Eve night when they beat the Denver Broncos on a Chad Ryland field goal. So, and unfortunately, I mean, because of that win, they've dropped from the number 2 pick to the number 4 pick in the draft. And Patriot fans who are wishing that they would lose right now, they're probably not happy with it, saying, "Why are you guys winning? Why are you guys winning? You should be losing these games, so you still have a chance at not only holding on to the number 2 pick, but maybe a slim chance at the number 1 pick." But I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. These guys play for the pride and the jersey that they wear. They play for the Patriots. They play for so many great players that have donned that Patriots uniform. You play hard for 60 minutes, and then whatever happens, happens. And I can't be more proud of these guys, especially with being a team that wasn't in a playoff chase in the Denver Broncos. And they may have spoiled their chances. They wanted to play the role of spoiler. They did it on Christmas Eve night. So this team's going to play hard again. But again, this is in Buffalo here. Florio, you said we got a receipt coming. Hey, you got it coming because I'm going with the Buffalo Bills to win this one in what will be a raucous atmosphere in Buffalo. So it's yours, Florio.
The professional stuff first and then the personal stuff in a minute. The Patriots won the first meeting in October. but the Bills are 12-1 in home games against AFC East division opponents since 2020, including the playoffs, with the one loss coming against New England on that Monday night in December of 2021. The Bills have won 3 straight, while the Patriots are coming off a win at Denver. Bills quarterback Josh Allen said, frankly, it's a game that we need to win. And they know that. We know that. If I'm in the New England Patriot locker room, I'm looking to ruin their season. The Patriots will hold the Bills' offense below its average in the red zone. Buffalo is the NFL's #1 rated red zone offense with 37 touchdowns and 55 trips, a success rate of 67%, while New England's red zone defense ranks 7th in the NFL, as opponents have scored 22 touchdowns and 45 trips, a success rate of 49%. Patriots coach Bill Belichick has never lost 12 games in a season as a head coach. The 2000 New England Patriots and the 1995 Cleveland Browns each went 5-11. The X factor, Patriots defensive tackle Christian Barmore. He ranks 10th out of all tackles in pass rush win rate at almost 14%. And while the Bills have a good offensive line overall, no one in the interior is elite. Barmore has a chance to make an impact and disrupt Josh Allen. All right, hold on. Okay. Since joining the Bills, Stephon Diggs has averaged 10 targets and almost 22 fantasy points against New England. 4 of the last 5 games, he's had 8 or more targets. Since 2021, Diggs has averaged only 11 fantasy points during the month of December. The Bills are 0-7 against the spread in their last 7 games as a double-digit favorite, including the playoffs, 0-3 against the spread this season. But the FPI loves Buffalo. I think this is the highest percentage of the week. 87% going with the Buffalo Bills by an average of 15 points. Of course, I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills to win this game. You know that. I got them winning 28-13. I mean, if you had told me at this point that Buffalo would still be in the running for the AFC East, I would have told you no way. I would have gone into that whole Jim Mora playoff bit, honestly. But boy, howdy, have they. Oof. They got rid of Dorsey. And since Joe Brady came in, we smashed the Jets. Should have beat Philly, but we let that one get away. Smashed Dallas. Nearly let the Chargers sneak past us in a game that had no business being as close as that was. But they looked past them. Message to you guys. Do not look past New England. Don't even think about Miami. We'll worry about them next week. Do your damn job. Take care of business. Mafia, bring that heat like I know you can and I know you will. Just focus on the Patriots, one game at a time. J.A. said it. Every game's a playoff game. Treat this like it is a playoff game. Pay these guys back for embarrassing us in October. Pray to God that somehow Baltimore beats Miami. And then we actually still have a shot at doing this thing. So do your damn job. Don't make the same mistake you made last week, because clearly you looked past the Chargers. You clearly looked past them. You played down to them. Why do you think MF's Dolphins lost to Tennessee, for goodness sakes? Do not make that same mistake again. Focus on these guys. Don't worry about the scoreboard. Do that after the game is over. And let's just hope that the chips fall, that the stars align for us. So we still have a shot at this thing.
And I'll tell you this, Florio. If we get both the outcomes that we think it's going to happen, I'm going to say this right now: Buffalo and Miami for the division. That should be Sunday Night Football, plain and simple.
Oh, it will. It will.
Oh, you know it will. Winner take all. They always do the winner take all games. So, yeah. So, but first we got to take care of business, and then we have to hope that Baltimore gives us that extra shot in the arm take care of Miami, and then we got ourselves the game of the year next week. So, one game at a time. Mafia, bring the heat. I know you guys will. You always do. Bring that same heat that we brought against Dallas. We are damn good at home. We've got, I believe, 4 big smash wins. We smashed Vegas. We smashed Miami. Smashed the Jets. Smashed Dallas. Smash these guys. That's all I'm saying. Don't put me through that torture and agony of last week. I damn near had a duck last week. Don't make me go through that again, please. Save that for next week. 28-13, Buffalo beats New England. And we'll let the chips fall where they may. So, not much more to say on that. Good LMF, Michael Fletcher. Our port authority on playoff clinching scenarios. Buffalo beats New England. They need a little more. If they get certain help, we're in.
Yo, man. All right. When I saw this, I had to talk to the producers, and I'm like, are you serious? This is the scenarios that Buffalo needs to get into the playoffs? And they're like, yup. I like, this many. They're like, yup. Get your pen and paper, ladies and gentlemen, because we got 14 scenarios for the Buffalo Bills to get into the playoffs.
14?
You heard me, Bullock. 14.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So, I hope my voice can hang in and survive it because it's a lot. All right. So here we go. Buffalo would have to win. And then you need a combination of Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Jacksonville, and Indianapolis. Any one of those scenarios, and there's a lot. Because if it's like Buffalo wins, Pittsburgh loses, and Cincinnati loses, Buffalo's in. Or you can do Pittsburgh loss and Jacksonville loss, they're in. Then there's a scenario where Buffalo wins. You would need Pittsburgh to lose or tie, Houston to lose or tie, and Indianapolis to lose or tie. Buffalo gets in. Cincinnati lose or tie, and Jacksonville lose or tie with a Buffalo Bills win, they're in. Or, as scenario number 5, Buffalo wins, Cincinnati loses or tie, Houston loses or tie, and Indianapolis loses or tie, and that gets them through into the playoffs. If Buffalo ends up tying New England, where I know that's probably not going to happen, but if they do, then you would need multiple teams to lose, including a combination where it's Pittsburgh, Cincy, Jacksonville, Houston, and Indianapolis. Pick one of your 5 scenarios, and that's exactly what they're going to need. So, like I said, there's 14 possible scenarios, folks. Go on to NFL.com, news, clinching scenarios. You'll see all 14 of them. I'm not going to waste my time because it's way too much, and my voice is almost shot to bleep. All I will say is this. I do got Buffalo winning. I do believe they'll get the job done. I don't know if it's going to be the domination blowout victory that Anthony's gonna go, because this is Bill Belichick, man. You honestly think he's going to give the Buffalo Bills an easy victory on a silver platter at home? No. This is still the New England Patriots. This is still Bill Belichick. You know that in the past, he's had your number, Florio. Let's be realistic. So, Are they? He's the only guy, and I truly mean this, that gives us nightmares every time. Anytime we play a New England Patriot team, we know we're in for a fight. We know we're going to be in for problems. So I don't think it's as easy as everybody's making it out to be. I don't think it's going to be an easy victory, dominating, whatever you want to call it. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, Buffalo's going to win, but I don't think it's going to be a smash job. I don't think it's going to be a blowout victory. I don't think it's going to be like that. I don't know. I feel like New England found something last week when they beat the Denver Broncos. I think they found something that they can build off for next season. Now, will Buffalo be like, all right, you know what, fine, we got J17, we can dominate? I don't know, because look what happened. They couldn't run the football. Where was your hero when he did against Dallas? Where was your hero there, Florio? He was non-existent. They made him one-dimensional. Even though JA17 still did what he had to do, he worked his magic. They were very fortunate to win that game. I think New England will make this a game. They're going to make it more tougher than what the experts have it. So I think this will be like a 31-24. I think Buffalo will win the game, but I think you're going to have to sweat this one out, Florio. I hate to say this, but you thought the anxiety level went through the roof on you about a week ago when the Chargers gave you a near scare? I think New England's going to give you more than you can handle. I don't think it's going to be as an easy victory as you think it's going to be, or as the experts are having it. Because the thing is this, whenever the league, whenever the NFL starts to do that kind of bit where they're like, oh, this team's going to do this or that, and they're already anointing them, like they're already thinking, oh, Dolphins versus Bills, week 18 for the AFC East. No. You don't think Belichick knows that? You don't think Belichick is not using that as bulletin board material for his boys? Like, they're writing you off. They're telling you that you can't win this game. I think it's time that we shut the people up and show why we are the New England Patriots. Show the Patriot way, and don't flinch. Don't freak out. Don't scare like you've done in the past. Look.
And here's another thing. They have a chance to go into Bill's Mafia and shut that crowd in Buffalo, and also to shut the mouth of Anthony Florio, who says, "Oh, they're gonna blow them out and all that." No, they're gonna make it a close game, and who knows? They could potentially pull off the upset, and they have a chance to say, "Yeah, take that bold statement of yours, Florio, and stick it."
The thing is this, at the end of the day, if the Patriots played like they played against the Denver Broncos last week, there's a very good chance we see an upset. And quite frankly, obviously for me, I'm pulling for the Patriots. I can't believe I'm even saying that, but I am. If New England wins this game, that automatically gives the Miami Dolphins the AFC East. Now, if they get that, Michael Bullock, I'm buying you dinner the next time out. I will pay for your dinner. I don't give a crap if New England wins this game.
Okay, I'm going to hold you to that, man.
You better, because I will. I'm dead effing serious about that one, Bullock. But I do believe New England will fall short. They will lose to Buffalo. But like I said, I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be a lot more closer than what the experts have it. And I get it. A lot of people are going to think that it's going to be an easy game, but it's not. And I think that's the problem. Everybody's thinking look, this is why we call it any given Sunday. And I feel like New England they've heard all the naysayers. They've heard all the negativity. They know what's going on. And a lot of these guys are playing for spots for next year. So you don't think for 1 second that this team is going to lay down and give up. Oh, but why? Because they're the almighty Bills? Get the hell out of here with that garbage. So New England's going to make it a game. Florio, you're going to have to sweat this one out. But I do believe they will survive like they did against the Chargers. But it ain't going to be an easy cakewalk, or walk through like a few weeks ago. So nothing more to say. Anthony, back to you.
Well, I only said 2 touchdown win. I didn't necessarily say they were going to smash them by 40. I didn't say that. No. So, and I know New England's going to bring it. I wouldn't have it any other way. So, simply put, may the best team win. That's all I'm going to say right here. So, all right. So with that, let's on next matchup. It's our number 5 game of the week, as it will feature the Atlanta Falcons squaring off against the Chicago Bears on CBS. Chris Lewis, Jason McCourty, Ross Tucker, and Amanda Renner will be in Chicago for this game. And Chicago opening up as a 2.5-point favorite. Let's just double check that. Yes, 2.5-point spread for Chicago. Chicago leads the all-time series 15-14. They met last year in Atlanta. Atlanta won 27-24. Last meeting in Chicago was 2017. Atlanta also won that game 23-17. Bears haven't beaten the Falcons at home since 2011, a 30-12 win. So let's dive on into this matchup with Atlanta and Chicago. Hold on. Yeah, I right-clicked it. All right, here we go. Just give me a moment here. Yeah, it pushed me back to the top. Yeah, this thing just loves to screw around with me. Where is it? All right. The Bears are looking at a home game in Chicago. The Bears have a 96% chance to earn the number 1 overall pick via Carolina and might be eyeing a quarterback in the draft. As for the Falcons, they're averaging 14 points a game on the road this season, as opposed to 23 at home. Both the Falcons and Bears will have a 100-yard rusher on Sunday. Bijan Robinson for Atlanta and Justin Fields for Chicago. It'll be Fields' first 100-yard rushing game at Detroit, and Robinson's first since October 1 in London against Jacksonville. But both players have found rhythms of late, leading to a run-heavy game between two teams that like to keep the ball on the ground. Justin Fields has a 4-3 record in his last 7 starts. He had lost 12 straight starts prior. The X factor is Falcons linebacker Nate Landman. The Bears are a run-heavy team, but Landman is the counter to that as a run-stopping off-ball linebacker. He ranks 7th in run-stop win rate at 40% among linebackers this season. What's at stake? Well, both of these teams are actually alive, but they need a win and help. It's a bit more straightforward for Atlanta, who have a 12% chance of making the playoffs with a win and only 7% if they lose. Strangely, Atlanta's chances to win the NFC South will not change with the result, as they are completely dependent on Tampa Bay losing to New Orleans. The Bears have very slim playoff hopes, as a win would give them a 0.3% chance at the playoffs. Bijan Robinson will appear in a lot of starting lineups, but don't overlook Tyler Algier. He has averaged 10 touches over the last 5 games, and the Bears defense has given up the 12th most fantasy points a game to running backs. 6 of the last 8 Bears games have gone under the total. Very close FPI here. 51% going with Atlanta by an average of 0.4 points. I'm sorry, I don't trust that. I got to go with the Chicago Bears to win this game. Chicago wins. I say final score 23-21. Close game, but I think Chicago takes it. So if it was in Atlanta, I would go with Atlanta. But with this game being in Chicago, I got to give a slight edge to the Bears here. So not much more to say here. But before I give it to MF, breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. The Missouri Tigers have won the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic. They have defeated the Ohio State 14-3. The final score in Jerry World. How you like that, MF? How you like them apples?
You know what? I have to say I can't. I'm over the moon. I knew Ohio State were frauds, and now they just confirmed how fraudulent this team actually is. Good ride, good riddance. Screw you. Fuck you, Ohio State bitches.
Yeah. Screw all you Ohio State fans, especially since I'm going to say it right now. They were the ones that snitched on Jim Harbaugh in Michigan with the sign stealing scandal.
Oh, damn right. You damn right they did.
So this was the ultimate FU right back at them.
All right, MF, you're on mute, but congratulations to Missouri winning the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic, 14-3, the final from Jerry World tonight. So, just waiting for these guys to get adjusted here. So, MF, when you're ready, come back in. There you are. All right. I know you got to be thrilled about that. Could be the beginning of a big football weekend for you. We'll see. But
Well, we'll
right
see.
now,
Obviously, the game on New Year's Day.
yep. And of course, yep, and the Dolphins, obviously. So, but right now, Atlanta and Chicago, a very intriguing number 5 game for our side of the ledger.
Yeah, no, very intriguing matchup, no doubt about it. It's going to be a good game to say the very least. And I really feel like if Atlanta gives the ball to Bijan Robinson, I think Atlanta wins the game. You know, obviously, Bijan Robinson is a generational player. He's a really exciting talent. I think that's the one thing that I would be more inclined about. But at the end of the day, I kind of feel like you're right, Anthony. I think Chicago is going to get the job done. They'll figure it out. They'll win this game. It's not going to be the most glamorous victories. I think this could be an ugly game. Just like how you can say it's similar to the Ohio State Missouri game was pretty ugly throughout the game, except for maybe the fourth quarter. I think it's going to be somewhat similar. Very low scoring, maybe like a 13-10 type score, but I'll give it to the Bears to win it. So, Michael Bullock, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, I'm with everyone here. I got to go with the Chicago Bears as well. I mean, it's going to be close, but I just think Chicago, because this is in Chicago, I got to go with the Bears. So it's yours, Florio.
All right. We had a cross-flex game on our side of the ledger. Well, how about a cross-flex game on the other side? This game is on Fox, and it will feature an AFC South divisional matchup with the Titans squaring off against the Houston Texans from NRG Stadium, formerly Reliant Stadium in Houston. Fox will have this game. Chris Myers, Robert Smith, and Jen Hale, they will be on the call for this game, and the spread favors Houston. Houston opening up as a 4-point favorite. These two teams just met about 2 or 3 weeks ago in Tennessee, and Houston won that game. So they cut Tennessee's series lead down to 23-20 when Houston stole one in Nashville. But the thing is, Tennessee has actually won, I believe, the last 4 meetings in a row in Houston, including a 17-10 win in Houston last year. The Houston Texans have not beaten the Tennessee Titans at home since 2018, a 34-17 final here. So let's address, before I give it to MF to start this matchup off, what's at stake? A win for Houston would give them basically a 50-50 shot to qualify for the playoffs next week. 51% for the playoffs and a puncher's chance at winning the AFC South, 20%. A loss would not be kind to Houston, reducing their playoff odds to 23% and their AFC South hopes to only 2%. But Tennessee's already out. But a loss would increase their chances at a top 5 pick. But MF, as I give it to you here, Tennessee and Houston on Fox. The big news that came out, good news, welcome news for the Houston Texans. Their stud rookie quarterback, who has the potential to be a franchise quarterback in the future, CJ Stroud. He's cleared concussion protocol. CJ Stroud will be back for the Houston Texans. So, MF, come on in. Let's get your thoughts on it. Tennessee and Houston. CJ Stroud is back, and that's huge for Houston.
It could not have come at a better time, too. With everything riding on the division and everything else. And this could not have come any better for him to come back now. When CJ Stroud was there, that team was a different animal. They were one of the best teams in the AFC South, and you could even say a sleeper team to make the playoffs and be one of those teams that you did not want to face in the postseason. So I think they will bounce back. I do believe that Houston will get this win here, and I really got nothing more to add. So Michael Bullock, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, this getting CJ Stroud back is a huge boost for the Texans here, and I think they're going to feed off of it. So I'm going to go with the Houston Texans to win this one as well. So it's yours, Florio.
Indeed. The Texans control their destiny. Win, they'll be in the postseason. The Titans face a different version of the Texans as rookie quarterback CJ Stroud has cleared concussion protocol. Before Stroud suffered a concussion, he led the league in passing yards at 3,631 and threw 20 touchdown passes to only 5 interceptions. The Texans' offense with Stroud ranked 10th in scoring, 24 a game, and was 6th in total offense, 373. Without him, the offense averaged only 2 yards and 17 points. Stroud will face the league's second-best red zone defense, which allows touchdowns on just 38% of red zone drives. Titans receiver DeAndre Hopkins will have 100 receiving yards and surpass 1,000 yards on the season. Hopkins has posted 3 100-yard receiving games this season. Houston's defense is allowing 248 passing yards a game, so it will be a prime opportunity for Hopkins to have a good game against his former team. With a loss, the Titans would lose 11 games in the season for the first time since 2015, when they went 3-13. The X factor is Texans wide receiver Noah Brown and tight end Dalton Schultz. Even with Stroud back, this Texans offense still is missing their receiver Tank Dell. At times, Brown and Schultz have showed up in major ways. Houston needs one of them to come through to get the offense back on track. This season, Texans wide receiver Nico Collins has averaged 34 fantasy points when he has been targeted 9 times or more. The Titan defense has given up the 5th most receiving yards a game to wide receivers. Titans are 1-8 against the spread in their last 9 against teams with winning records. Slight FPI edge to Houston, 52% by an average of almost 1 point. But I'm going with the Houston Texans to get back on track. They win this game. Final score for me, 27-21. Houston defeats Tennessee and gets back on track. Next up, it's our number 3 game of the week on our side of the ledger. A lot of playoff implications in this one. The Las Vegas Raiders squaring off against the Indianapolis Colts from Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis on CBS. Andrew Catalan, Tiki Barber, Matt Ryan, and AJ Ross will be on the call for that one. And the spread favors Indianapolis. Colts opening up as 3.5-point favorites. The Raiders, however, lead the all-time series 10-9. They met last year in Las Vegas. Indianapolis won that game by a score of 25-20. Last meeting in Indianapolis the year before, 2021, Raiders won that game 23-20. And the Colts last beat the Raiders at home in Indianapolis back in 2013, 21-17. Before I give Bullock to lead off on this, let's set the table for what's at stake for these two teams here. All right. Massive game for both teams. A win gives the Colts a 63% chance of making the playoffs and a 28% chance to win the AFC South. They lose, their playoff chances drop down to 21% and 4% to win the division. For Vegas, the math is simple. A win keeps the Raiders alive. A loss extinguishes their playoff hopes. Raiders would have a 34% chance at the playoffs with a win and would stay alive for the AFC West Division title 3% if Cincinnati upsets Kansas City, which we'll get into later on. But nonetheless, Michael Bullock, come on in. Raiders, Colts, number 3 game of the week. Massive game for both teams when it comes to the playoff race.
Yeah, it's definitely a massive game here for both teams if they still want to shout at the playoffs. But I'll tell you, the Vegas Raiders, they're riding high, coming off of a Christmas Day win against the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. And yeah, I mean, that's big when you go into Arrowhead and win a game like that. But for the Colts, I mean, I did hear that they're going to get Michael Pittman Jr. back, so that's going to be big. Man, this is a tough one for me to call here, but I got to give the slight edge to the Indianapolis Colts. If this game were in Vegas, I would definitely go with the Raiders. But I don't know why, but something tells me I got to go with the Colts here. But like I said, if the Raiders win, if they do somehow win, I would not at all be surprised. So give me Indianapolis. But I would not be surprised if I'm wrong on this one. So it's yours, Florio.
Absolutely. The Raiders, under interim coach Antonio Pierce, have held 4 of their 7 opponents under 100 yards rushing. Meanwhile, the Colts have been suddenly inconsistent with their ground game, limited to fewer than 100 total rushing yards in 3 of their last 4 games, after surpassing the 100-yard mark in 7 of their first 11 games. The Colts are hoping to have their top running backs, Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss, healthy for the first time since November 26th. Raiders All-Pro receiver Devontae Adams, coming off a 4-yard performance against Kansas City, will have more than 100 yards receiving and a touchdown against Indianapolis. Adams, who needs just 28 receiving yards for his 4th straight 1,000-yard season, has a touchdown catch in each of his 3 career games against the Colts, with at least 100 receiving yards in the last 2 meetings. Indianapolis, which has the league's number 14 ranked pass defense, has not given up 100 yards to a receiver since week 8, and that was the New Orleans Saints' Rashid Shaheed. The Raiders have had multiple defensive touchdowns in each of the last 2 weeks. If they do it again against the Colts, it will be an NFL record for consecutive games with multiple defensive touchdowns. The X factor is Colts right tackle Braden Smith. He's returning from injury and immediately has to protect quarterback Gardner Minshew from pass rusher Max Crosby. Smith's 90% pass block win rate this season is a bit above average. Colts running back Jonathan Taylor has had a tumultuous season, but has averaged 17 touches a game. Under Antonio Pierce, the Raiders have improved their defense, but Vegas still allows the 11th most fantasy points a game to running backs. Raiders are 6-1 against the spread in 7 games since hiring Antonio Pierce, and 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 as underdogs. The FPI likes Indianapolis here, 60% going with the Colts by an average of almost 4 points. I'm going with the Indianapolis Colts to win this game. 20-16, Indianapolis defeats Las Vegas. So not much more to say here. MF, massive game for both teams, especially Vegas. Can they keep that momentum going after that unbelievable win against Kansas City on Christmas?
Yeah, they played as good of a performance as you're going to get. It was without a doubt one of the best performances that the Raiders had all season long. And I honestly believe that they could win this game. But I feel like Indy is the better team. They have made a really good progress. And I do believe because it is in Indy, I'm going to give it to the Colts. I think the Colts are going to win this game. It's going to be very good to watch. But I got Indy winning. So, Anthony, back to you.
Yeah, we got a lot of early games here, guys. We got a few more to go. Next up, we have our Zonk game of the week on our side of the ledger. A battle of the two teams that came into the league in 1995. Those two teams being the Carolina Panthers and the Jacksonville Jaguars. They will square off at TIAA Bank Field in Jacksonville. Spiro Ditas, Adam Archuleta, and Aditi Kinkibuela will be on the call for that one. And Jacksonville opening up as a 4.5-point favorite. So just bear with me a moment here as I get the all-time series history between these two teams that both came into the league in 1995. And just bear with me a moment here. It's coming up. Okay. Carolina leads the all-time series 4-3, and Carolina has won the last 3 meetings in a row against Jacksonville, including the last one in 2019 in Charlotte. They won 34-27. Last meeting in Jacksonville, 2015, Carolina won 20-9. Jacksonville last beat Carolina at home and overall in 2007, smashed them 37-6. So let's dive on into this matchup here. Our Zonk game of the week. Let's dive on in, boys. Only the Washington Commanders' Sam Howell at 60 has been sacked more than Panthers rookie quarterback Bryce Young, 53, which is a good sign for a struggling Jaguars pass rush. Jaguars linebacker Josh Allen has 13.5 sacks. He needs one more to tie the franchise's single-season record, but his team has just recorded 32 sacks total. On the flip side, the Panthers have the league's worst pass rush, 21 sacks, and the Jaguars' offensive line ranks 30th in pass block win rate, 49% per ESPN Stats and Information. And it has been confirmed, unfortunately, Trevor Lawrence is out because of an AC sprain in his throwing shoulder. CJ Beathard will be in at quarterback. Bryce Young, who did not have a 300-yard passing game until last week against Green Bay, will have a second against a Jaguar defense ranked 29th against the pass, 257 passing yards allowed a game, and 27th in sacks. He'll also have a career-high 4 touchdown passes. The Jaguars are 0-4 in December. Only 3 teams in the Super Bowl era have made the playoffs after going winless in December. The 2022 Miami Dolphins, the 2000 Minnesota Vikings, and the 1969 Los Angeles Rams. The Jaguars, the X factor is the Jaguars defense. While both sides have been seriously lacking of late, the defense has been the biggest difference between the Jaguars in weeks 1 to 12 and their current 4-game losing streak in weeks 13 to 16. Fortunately for Jacksonville, the Panthers represent an opportunity to get back on track. Despite their losing skid, the Jaguars can win the AFC South on Sunday with a win and losses by Houston and Indianapolis. Even if they don't clinch, Jacksonville is at 88% to make the playoffs and 80% to win the division with a win. They lose 52% to make the playoffs, 27% to win the division. Panthers' loss would lock up the number 1 draft pick for Chicago, who acquired the Panthers' 2024 number 1 pick in the trade for the number 1 pick in 2023. But Carolina's pick would still have an 83% chance of being number 1, even if Carolina pulls the upset. Bryce Young had his best fantasy performance, 22.2 points against Green Bay last week. Now the rookie faces a Jaguar defense in week 17 that gives up the 3rd most fantasy points a game to quarterbacks. That's good news for DJ Shark Jr. The Jaguars have given up the 8th most fantasy points a game to wide receivers. 7 of the last 9 Panthers games have gone under the total. I know it's not going to be Trevor Lawrence, but the FPI still loves Jacksonville here. 78% by an average of 10 points. I'm going with Jacksonville to win. 23-14. I think Jacksonville will find a way to win even without Trevor Lawrence because it is Carolina after all. So not much more for me to say. So 23-14, Jacksonville wins. MF, come on in. Zonk game of the week, Carolina and Jacksonville. Your thoughts?
Yeah, and I'm going to give Jacksonville the outcome here. I think Jacksonville will win the game. Even though there is no Trevor Lawrence, I think the game will end. So, yeah, give me Jacksonville, and there's really nothing more to add. Bullock, it's yours.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars as well. I mean, yeah, no Trevor Lawrence. I think it's going to be no problem because, look, it's Carolina. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So, Jacksonville wins. Let's move on.
All right, next up, we got 4 early games left, and next up, it will be on the Fox side. It'll be every remaining early game is on the Fox side of the ledger here. So next up, we got the Los Angeles Rams squaring off against the New York Giants from MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey in the Meadowlands. Kevin Kugler, Mark Sanchez, and Laura Oakman will be on the call. And the spread favors Los Angeles, the Rams. Rams opening up as a, look at that, 5.5. It's a 5.5 point spread for the Rams against the Giants at MetLife. So bear with me here. Series history. I've just about got it here. Gotta go a little further. Okay. Oh, all right. I got it. Series history favors the LA Rams. Los Angeles Rams lead the all-time series 28-16. They last met in 2021. And as a matter of fact, the Rams have won the last 3 meetings in a row against the Giants. They last met in 2021. Rams blew out the Giants 38-11 at MetLife. The Giants haven't beaten the Rams since 2016 in London, 17-10. And they last beat the Rams in New York in 2011, their Super Bowl season of 2011, 28-16. MF will be starting this one off. And MF, I'll tell you what, when it comes to what's at stake in this one, Rams could punch their playoff ticket this week with a win and a Seattle loss or win, or I should say a Seattle loss to Pittsburgh, or a win and a tie in the Green Bay, Minnesota game. Either way, a win is crucial. Rams would have an 86% chance to make the playoffs with a win, all the way down to 22% with a loss. Giants were eliminated last week, but they have a 74% chance of getting a top 5 pick in the draft. So MF, Rams and Giants, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, this is gonna be interesting. I kind of feel like, especially for the Rams, this is must win. They gotta win this game. There's no arguments here. We know what the road is gonna be. It's gonna be a lot more tougher. But I do believe they'll get the job done. I think the Rams know what they have to do. They know what they need to handle, and I think that they will handle their business. So give me the Rams to win the game. I believe it goes back to you, Anthony, or does Michael Bullock have to take it?
Goes to Bullock.
I have to take it.
Yep, well, it's yours.
Yeah, I got to go with the Rams. I mean, they really need to win this, but a potential Week 18 if they have any shot of making it into the playoffs. So Rams win. Let's move on, Florio.
And we move on to me. The Rams are currently the 6th seed in the NFC with a 75% chance of reaching the playoffs per ESPN Analytics. A massive part of that projection is that they are a fairly substantial favorite on the road against the Giants. An upset loss would put the Rams in a precarious position with a road game at San Francisco on deck next week. Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua will have at least 147 receiving yards to pass Bill Groman with 1,473 for the most by a rookie in NFL history. Nacua has 4 games with at least 147 receiving yards this season, and the Giant defense ranks 20th in pass DVOA, allowing an average of 230 passing yards a game. The Rams have scored 28 plus points in 5 straight games, longest active streak in the NFL, and the Rams' longest since their Super Bowl season of 2018, 6 games. The X factor, Giants quarterback Tyrod Taylor. While Tommy DeVito's run was fun, Taylor, who was named the starter this week, should be an upgrade. Since 2020, Taylor has a 41 QBR, well ahead of DeVito's 22 this year. Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford has surpassed 30 or more pass attempts and scored 18 or more fantasy points in 5 consecutive games. Over the last 2 weeks, the Giants defense has given up superb performances to New Orleans' Derek Carr at 20.3 and Philadelphia's Jalen Hurts 23.4. Stafford is firmly on the QB1 radar. Rams have covered 5 straight games, longest active streak in the NFL. FPI loves the Rams, 82% going with the Rams by an average of 12 points. I'm going with the Los Angeles Rams to win this game as well. 31-17, Rams over the Giants. And we move on now to our next early game, 3 to go, as it will feature a renewal of an old school NFC East divisional rivalry, as it will feature the Arizona Cardinals squaring off against the Philadelphia Eagles from Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. And on the call for this one, it'll be Joe Davis, Daryl Moose Johnston, and Pam Oliver. And Philadelphia opening up as an 11.5-point favorite. And series history favors the Arizona Cardinals in the regular season, 58-56 with 5 ties. Their last meeting was last year in Arizona. Philadelphia won 20-17. Last meeting in Philadelphia, 2017, Philadelphia won 34-7. Arizona has not won in Philadelphia since 2015 when they blew out Philly 40-17. So, let me set this one up here for what's at stake. Eagles are already in the playoffs that can clinch the NFC East with a win and a loss or a tie by Dallas against Detroit. But even if Philly doesn't clinch, their chances to win the division would be a robust 92% with a win, with a 30% chance of getting the number 1 seed in the NFC. A loss drops Philadelphia to 40% to win the division and only a 1.3% chance at home field. Cardinals can still get the number 1 pick with a loss. They would have a 4% chance of picking first. They are in good shape to get the number 2 pick, though. I believe Michael Bullock starts this one off. So Bullock, Arizona, Philadelphia. Your thoughts, and you heard the numbers. So your thoughts on Arizona and Philadelphia?
Yeah, Philadelphia really needed that win on Christmas Day against the Giants because, could you imagine if they had lost that game to the Giants? Oh my goodness, Philly fans would be even more irate. But look, it wasn't pretty at times, but they got the win they needed, and I definitely see them winning this one again, and definitely putting them a step closer to putting them in a spot to win the NFC East and maybe getting that number 1 seed. So I got Philadelphia winning this one. It's yours, Florio.
Yeah, no question about this one. Cardinals coach Jonathan Gannon makes his return to Philly. The former Eagle defensive coordinator had a bumpy exit with his defense yielding 17 fourth-quarter points in an excruciating 38-35 loss to Kansas City in Super Bowl 57. The Eagles' defense, ranked number 2 overall under Gannon last year, has struggled for much of the season, prompting a switch from Sean Desai to Bullock's old friend Matt Patricia as defensive play caller. Gannon and the Cardinals will try to play spoiler against an Eagle team that is tied with San Francisco and Detroit for the best record in the NFC and looking to secure the number 1 seed in the NFC playoffs. Both offenses will gain 350 yards and score at least 21 points because neither defense can slow down opposing offenses. Cardinals are giving up 363 total yards and 27 points a game, and the Eagles are allowing 346 total yards and on 24 points a game. But here's the catch. Cardinals haven't scored more than 30 points this season despite scoring 24 or more points 6 times. Philadelphia has reached 30 points 6 times and has exceeded 350 total yards 8, but just once in the last month. Eagles are 12-1 when A.J. Brown has a receiving touchdown and 13-6 when he does not. Brown is seeking to avoid a 5th straight game without catching a touchdown pass. The X factor is Eagles cornerback James Bradbury. He has allowed 17 EPA as the nearest defender this season per NFL Next Gen Stats, which is 13th worst among outside corners with at least 250 coverage snaps. It's a far cry from Bradbury's stellar play a year ago, and the Eagles need more from him. Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray faces an Eagles defense that gives up the second most fantasy points a game to quarterbacks. Philadelphia ranks 6th in pass rush win rate. This could lead to Murray accumulating rushing yards. Eagles defense also gives up the most fantasy points a game to wide receivers. When Marquise Hollywood Brown has 7 or more targets with Murray under center, he averages 15 fantasy points a game. Eagles are 0-8 against the spread in their last 7 games in December or later, but the FPI loves Philly. 81% by an average of almost 12 points. I'm going with Philadelphia. I think they're going to win this one rather comfortably. One of the locks of the week, 38-17, Philadelphia all over Arizona. So not much more to say. MF, your thoughts on Arizona and Philly?
Yeah, I'm also in an agreement here. I'm also going to say Philadelphia Eagles to win. Anthony, back to you.
All right, and we have 2 early games left, but this next one, it's a biggie. It's a big one. It's one of the big games of the week. Huge implications in this one, as it will feature the New Orleans Saints squaring off against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. Kevin Burkhardt, Greg Olsen, Aaron Andrews, Tom Rinaldi, they'll be there. That's how big this game is. And the spread favors Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay opening up as a 2.5-point favorite. These two teams met, of course. This is their second meeting. They met earlier this season in the Superdome, and it was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning that game by a score of 26-9. So Tampa has the advantage here. So with that, spread favor New Orleans added to their series lead, 40-23. Well, actually, no. Tampa Bay cut New Orleans' lead. New Orleans still leads the all-time series regular season, 39-24. Last year, Tampa Bay won at home, 17-16. The year before, 2021, New Orleans, in one of the ugliest Sunday Night Football games of all time, stole one in Tampa, 9-0. Very ugly game, to say the very least. So with all that being said, let's dive on into this huge game with major implications in the NFC South. Dubbed the battle for the South, the Bucs can win the NFC South with a win over New Orleans on Sunday. This game comes at a good time for Tampa Bay, which is on a 4-game winning streak and has won the last 3 meetings against the Saints. Quarterback Baker Mayfield is 1 touchdown pass away from tying his rookie season career high of 27. The Saints give up 100 yards to Bucs receiver Mike Evans. Evans hasn't had a 100-yard receiving game against New Orleans since 2018, when he had 7 catches for 147 yards. Saints have contained Evans well when starting cornerback Marshawn Lattimore was matched up against them, but Lattimore won't be coming off IR this week. Saints struggled to contain the Rams receivers last week, leading to the temporary benching of slot corner Alontae Taylor, and Evans has been a factor in almost every game he has played this season. Mayfield and Evans have connected on 13 touchdown passes. That's tied for the 6th most by a duo in their first season together in NFL history. The X factor is Buccaneers cornerbacks Carlton Davis III and Jamel Dean. Together, they've allowed 36 total EPA as the nearest defender per NFL Next Gen stats. That's not great. And Sunday, they'll have to contend with Saints receiver Chris Olave. Well, what's at stake? Well, quite simple for Tampa Bay. A win gives them their 3rd consecutive NFC South Division title and 4th straight playoff berth. Tampa is still the odds-on favorite to win the division and make the playoffs even if they lose, as Tampa is at 71% to accomplish both. Saints need to win to stay alive as they are eliminated with a loss. A win, however, would give New Orleans a 21% chance to make the playoffs and a 16% chance of winning the division next week. Derek Carr has scored 20 or more fantasy points in 2 consecutive games. He faces a Bucs defense that gives up the 8th most fantasy points a game to quarterbacks. Buccaneers are 1-6 outright against teams currently with winning records, 4-3 against the spread, winning last week against Jacksonville. Believe it or not, New Orleans is a slight FPI favorite, 52% by an average of almost 1 point. Yeah, I disagree with that. I got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning this game and winning the NFC South yet again. 30-26, Tampa Bay defeats New Orleans. So not much more to say here. MF, Tampa Bay controls their own destiny. Win, they win the division. Lose, oh boy.
Yeah. Lose and you open the door for somebody else to take it through. I'm with you on this one, Anthony. I feel like Tampa Bay will get the job done, and I have them winning the division. So Tampa wins it. Nothing more to say. Bullock, it's yours.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I got Tampa Bay winning this game. They're going to win this division, and yeah, another division title for them. And I'll tell you what, they've been playing so well lately, and this is probably the best I've seen from Baker Mayfield in quite a while. And when you got guys like Chris Godwin and Mike Evans as your receivers, you know you're going to be producing. So Tampa Bay wins. So let's move on.
Final early game, gentlemen. This is the last one, as it will feature the San Francisco 49ers squaring off against the Washington Commanders from FedEx Field in Landover, Maryland. Adam Amin, Marshall, and another big spread here as San Francisco opening up as a 13.5 point favorite in this one, and rightfully so. And just give me a moment here as this loads up. All right. Series history between these two. It favors San Francisco 19-11 with a tie. They met last year in San Francisco. They met on Christmas Eve last year in San Francisco. MF and I should know we actually had this one, believe it or not. San Francisco won that game 37-20. Last meeting in Washington was 2019. San Francisco won an ugly one, 9-0. Washington hasn't beaten the Niners at home since they were the Redskins back in 2017, 26-24. And as far as what's at stake in this one, well, it's simple. 49ers can wrap up the number one seed with a win and losses by Detroit to Dallas and by Philadelphia to Arizona. Even if they don't clinch, the Niners will have a 79% chance to get the number one seed with the win. But an upset loss would drop those odds all the way down to 16%. Commanders still have faint hopes of getting the number one pick with a loss, 0.7%, almost 1%. So I don't know what else there is left to say here. So let me see. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Okay, so this goes back to me. Okay. All right. So I jumped the gun on the what's at stake, but that's all right. We already knew it anyway. All right. Former Washington defensive end Chase Young makes his return 2 months after the team traded him to San Francisco. Young recorded 5 sacks in 7 games with Washington and has 2.5 in 7 games with San Francisco, though he has been a backup with the 49ers after starting for the Commanders. Of his 53 pass rush wins, according to ESPN Stats and Information, 38 came with Washington. He'll get a chance to sack Commanders quarterback Jacoby Brissett, who is slated to make his first start of the season. But Brissett was added to the injury report with a hamstring injury and is listed as questionable. In 2 relief appearances and 25 dropbacks, Brissett has not been sacked. Christian McCaffrey scores 3 touchdowns to become the Niners' single-season record holder. McCaffrey has 21 touchdowns, rushing and receiving combined through 15 games, leaving him 2 short of Hall of Famer Jerry Rice's franchise record of 23, which Jerry Rice did in only 12 games in 1987. It's a favorable matchup for McCaffrey and the Niners' offense, as Washington is 23rd in yards per rush allowed, 4.5, and rushing yards allowed, 1,840. Commanders have also given up 597 receiving yards to running backs. That's 27th in the NFL. Look for McCaffrey to do damage through the air and on the ground on his way to a record-breaking day. With a win, the 49ers would have 12-plus wins in consecutive seasons for the first time since doing so in 3 straight years, 1996 through 1998. The X factor, obviously, is Jacoby Brissett. Sam Howell's play deteriorated in recent weeks with just a 36 QBR since Week 10. Brissett should be an upgrade, and in fact, the betting line has shrunk since it opened, and Ron Rivera announced Brissett as a starter. In other words, that's a strong sign the betting markets have more faith in Brissett. Commanders defense has allowed the second most receiving yards and second most touchdown passes per game to wide receivers. You'll want to have Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk in lineups. Also, the Commanders have given up the sixth most receiving yards a game to running backs, which is good news for McCaffrey. 49ers have covered 4 straight on the road and 4 straight as road favorites. 78% going with San Francisco by an average of 10 points. This team is hopping mad after they got embarrassed at home on Christmas by the Baltimore Ravens. San Francisco is going to run all over these guys. They're going to smash these guys. 40-14, San Francisco all over Washington. Nothing more to say. MF, this team is hopping mad, and are they going to take their frustrations out on Washington?
Yeah. You want a team to be going to your place after that pitiful performance? Yeah, I would not want to be a Washington Commander right about now. So give me San Fran to win this one and win this sucker in a laugher. Nothing more to say, Michael Bullock. It's yours.
Oh, what game are we talking about?
San Francisco and Washington.
Yeah, I got to go with the 49ers. I mean, because this team is hopping mad after that performance on Monday night, on Christmas night against the Ravens. I think they're going to bounce back in a big way. So I got the 49ers winning. It's yours for you.
All right, late games now. We got 3. We got 4 left, but the next 3 are late games. 1 4:05 game on Fox, 2 4:25 games on CBS. We start with the 4:05 game on Fox. A cross flex here. Boy, we would have loved to have had this game on our end. This would have been a great game for us. The Pittsburgh Steelers squaring off against the Seattle Seahawks from Lumen Field in Seattle. Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilma, and Shannon Spake. They will be on the call for that one. And Seattle opening up as a 3.5-point favorite. Seattle leads the all-time series 10-9 regular season. They last met in 2021 in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh won 23-20 in overtime. Last meeting in Seattle was 2015. Seattle won a wild one, 39-30. The Steelers have not won in Seattle since all the way back in 1983, if you can imagine that. Let me just make sure I'm reading this correctly. Yes, 1983. That's the last time Pittsburgh won in Seattle. That was at the old Kingdome, 27-21. MF will be starting it off, and this one has major implications also. Third straight win would lock Seattle into the playoffs if the Green Bay-Minnesota game ends in a tie. But even if that doesn't happen, Seattle's in good shape with a win. Their chances to make the playoffs would grow to almost 88%. A loss will not end their playoff hopes, but it would reduce them all the way down to 42%. Pittsburgh also not out with a loss, but their playoff hopes would fall all the way down to almost 6%. A win gives Pittsburgh a little bit more hope, increasing their percentage to 23%. So, MF, Pittsburgh, Seattle, huge game for both teams, but it's especially huge. It's especially big for Pittsburgh, who kept their hopes slightly alive after that surprise blowout win over Cincinnati last Saturday.
And you know what the thing is, Anthony? To be real honest with you, I think they found their quarterback. Mason Rudolph. Welcome back to the NFL, my friend. Where have you been? That's the thing. Because they look so sharp. They look so good. And we kind of were looking at it, we're like, now where the hell did this team come from? Why didn't we not see this all year long? And all of a sudden, here we are talking about, the Steelers possibly trying to make a playoff run. I don't know if they're going to get there, but, I mean, they're going to make it a lot more interesting than they did the last time out. But at the end of the day, this is tough because obviously you want to see Pittsburgh try to win it. You think Pittsburgh can win this. But Seattle, man, the way they've been playing this season, I mean, and they're at home. I don't know. I think I think Seattle is going to steal it. I think Seattle will steal this. It's going to be close, but I'm going to give it to Seattle barely. Nothing more to say. Michael Bullock, it's yours.
Yeah, I got to go with the Seattle Seahawks too. I mean, because they're trying to fight for a playoff spot too, and they need to win out, and a win here will definitely help their chances. So Seattle wins. It's yours, Florio.
Yes. While the Seahawks' run defense has faltered of late, their pass defense has been much better. After allowing roughly almost 4 pass plays a game of at least 20 yards over the first 14 weeks, Seattle's the only team that has not allowed one such completion over the last 2 weeks. Pittsburgh, meanwhile, got touchdown catches from George Pickens of 86 and 66 yards, as well as another 44-yard reception last week. If Seahawks cornerback Devin Witherspoon returns from the hip pointer that has sidelined him most of the last 3 games, the Witherspoon-Pickens matchup will be a must-watch. Steelers will have their first 100-yard rusher since Week 11. Seahawks have given up 171 rushing yards a game in their last 3 outings, second worst mark in the NFL. After struggling for the better part of the last month, the Steelers committed to the run game against Cincinnati and ran the ball 30 times for 113 yards, with Najee Harris accounting for 78 of them. With quarterback Mason Rudolph stretching the field and opening up the offense with deep vertical passes, Steelers to keep finding room to run against Seattle. Seahawks receiver DK Metcalf has 5 receiving touchdowns in the last 4 games after he had only 3 in his first 10 games. The X factor is Steelers cornerback Joey Porter Jr. We've highlighted him a few times, but his role against Seattle's strong receiver group is paramount. Porter ranks second in yards per coverage snap allowed and 8th in EPA allowed among outside corners with at least 250 coverage snaps. The Seahawks defense has allowed the 6th most fantasy points a game to running backs. This season, Harris has averaged 15 touches a game, while Jaylen Warren has averaged 12. There's a place for both in fantasy lineups, especially for managers in deeper formats. 5 of the last 6 Seahawks games against AFC teams have gone under the total. FPI likes Seattle 67% by an average of 6 points. I'm going with Seattle to win this one also. If it was in Pittsburgh, maybe I would have gone with Pittsburgh, but with this game being in Seattle, the 12th man, got to go with Seattle here. 24-21, Seattle beats Pittsburgh. The first of the 2 4-25 games on CBS, this game came in at number 6, as it will feature the Los Angeles Chargers squaring off against the Denver Broncos in Power Field at Mile High in Denver. And on the call for that game, it will be Tom McCarthy, Jay Feely, James Lofton, and Tiffany Blackman. And the spread favors Denver. Denver opening up as a 3.5-point favorite. These teams just met a few weeks ago in Los Angeles, and the Broncos won that game by a score of 24-7, and put Denver in a solid position. But oh boy, have they faltered over the last couple of weeks. Getting blown out in Detroit and then getting embarrassed. That embarrassing loss to Bullock's Patriots last week. Denver added to their series lead against the Chargers. They now lead at 71-55 with a tie. Last year in Denver won 31-28. Broncos have done fairly well against the Chargers of late. They've won the last 4 meetings in Denver against the Chargers. Chargers have not won in Denver since 2018. Final score in that one was 23-9. And before I give it to Michael Bullock to start this game, what's at stake? Well, the playoffs in the AFC West are still in play for Denver. Will win. They would have an 8% chance to make the playoffs and a 3% chance to win the division, and they would need Kansas City to lose to Cincinnati. A loss eliminates Denver and would be their 8th straight season out of the playoffs. The Chargers cannot get the number 1 pick, but they currently have an 18% chance at a top 5 selection in the 2024 NFL draft. So let me see here. 1, 2, 3. All right, just give me one moment here. Just want to check something. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, yes, it does. It does go to Bullock here. So Bullock, come on in. The Chargers and the Broncos. You heard the numbers. Number 6 game of the week for us. So, and big news out of Denver. Russell Wilson benched, which I don't understand, and Jarrett Stidham now the quarterback. Okay.
Yeah, this definitely made some headlines. I mean, with Russell Wilson being benched for the final 2 games for Jarrett Stidham while they're still in the playoff race, which to me, I don't understand it, but I've heard some rumors when it came to this because this all centers around Russell Wilson's contract.
Bullock. I'm sorry. I did the rotation, and I was actually supposed to lead off on this one. I'm sorry. So,
Oh, all right.
yep. Let me take it. Let me take the
I'll
reins.
let. All right, go. All right, you go ahead.
Yeah. I messed that one up. I apologize. All right. So, Broncos coach Sean Payton benched quarterback Russell Wilson this week after Payton had publicly again expressed his frustration over the offense's performance in the loss to New England last Sunday. Wilson's replacement, Jarrett Stidham, will face a Charger defense ranked 29th overall, allowing 373 yards a game. Stidham has a chance over the next 2 games to stake a claim to compete for the starting job next season. Broncos also waived the defensive captain Monday in Kareem Jackson. So how this team looks on the field will bear watching given the 2 players standing in the locker room. Chargers have the feel of a team re-energized under interim coach Giff Smith, whom players have lauded for his old school tough love approach that is uniform from stars to receivers, or from stars to reserves. In their first game under Smith, the Chargers nearly beat the Buffalo Bills, a team that had blown out the soaring Dallas Cowboys a week prior. Without their top receiver, Keenan Allen, and with a third-string center and a backup quarterback. With the Broncos fresh off a week of turmoil, the Chargers could spoil Denver's slim playoff hopes on Sunday. Broncos defense has registered 15 sacks in the last 4 games, and opposing quarterbacks have been held to a 35 total QBR since week 13, nearly 25 points better than in the Broncos' first 12 games. The X factor is obviously Jarrett Stidham. He's basically a total wild card, having not thrown a single pass as a Bronco. He should have an easy first assignment against the Chargers, but Denver's chances will depend a lot on what kind of quarterback they have Sunday. Chargers running back Austin Eckler has averaged 18 touches and 19 fantasy points a game against Denver since 2021. Denver's defense has steadily improved, but the Broncos still give up the second most fantasy points a game to running backs. Chargers are 2-5 against the spread in their last 7 games. They've gone under the total in 10 of their last 13. Denver opening up as a 53% FPI favorite, and by an average of 1 point. It's going to be an ugly game, but I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos to barely get by here. 16-13 Denver over the Chargers. So not much more to say. MF, oh boy, what a mess in Denver. Can they find a way to beat this Charger team that nearly embarrassed Buffalo last week?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like everything's changed. It seems like the attitude has changed. It seems like the momentum has shifted. Denver looks like they're on the, who knows what we're going to get from them. At the end of the day, it's going to be an interesting matchup, but I kind of feel like Denver is going to eke this out, but I'm not convinced about it. This is going to be a tough game. Denver wins it, but barely. So, Michael Bullock, I give it to you.
Yeah, so like I was saying, I mean, like you said, what an interesting week. I mean, Russell Wilson, I mean, being benched for the final 2 games, like I said, which I don't understand, while they're still in the playoff hunt. But I heard some rumors, guys, that, and it all centers around the contract of Russell Wilson. I think it was the management or the coach, basically, or both, said either you, especially with all the money that he's getting paid, it was either adjust and fix your contract with all the money, or you're going to be benched the final 2 games. obviously, I mean, if the rumors are true, it looks like Russell Wilson took the ladder, and basically they said, "No, you're benched for the final 2 games. I don't care if we're in the playoff hunt or not." I don't know. I mean, it's a slippery slope when it comes to this. I mean, Fletch. I mean, what do you make of all this? I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's an ugly situation.
It feels like this was a business move more than anything else because, like you said, Michael Bullock, it basically prevents Russell Wilson to get $42 million. That's what we're talking about here. $42 million that Russ now just lost. And incentives. Because there was some clause in the contract that if he played a certain amount of percentage of the season, that would be kickered in. Now he lost that, and he might have lost guaranteed money as well because of this decision. So it seems like a very petty move in the grand scheme of things because you just basically ruined Russell Wilson's season. I don't know, guys. I'm with you, Bullock. I'm not as happy about the whole situation. I feel like it's a complete and utter mess, but I get why Denver wants to do it, but at the end of the day, not cool on their part.
Yeah, this just makes them look real bad. I mean, and it's not fair to someone like Russell Wilson, who is a class guy. I mean, he was a Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year award winner, and for him to get treated the way he is, I just think it's unfair. But I think it was the Broncos who got into this, who wanted Russell Wilson, so they're the ones who got themselves into this mess, and they got no one to blame but themselves. So I still think Denver will win this one, but it's going to be real close. So it's yours, Florio.
All right, gentlemen. It's our number 2 game of the week. This game came in at number 2. Massive implications for both of these teams. The other 425 game on CBS. The Cincinnati Bengals squaring off against the Kansas City Chiefs. Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. Hello, friends. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, Tracy Wolfson. They will have it. They'll be at Arrowhead for our number 2 game of the week with massive implications on both sides. No question about it. Kansas City opening up as a 6.5-point favorite. Series history favors Cincinnati. Cincinnati leads the all-time series 17-14. They met last year in Cincinnati. Cincinnati won 27-24. But in the AFC Championship game, Kansas City got their payback 23-20. Of course, Cincinnati's last win in Kansas City was the previous year's AFC Championship game, 27-24 in overtime. Last regular season meeting in Kansas City was 2018. Kansas City won going away 45-10. Cincinnati hasn't won a regular season game in Kansas City since 2012, 28-6. And before I give it to MF to start it off, we know what's at stake here. Kansas City can lock up their 8th consecutive AFC West division title with a win or losses by Las Vegas and Denver. Even if Kansas City doesn't clinch the division, a win guarantees a playoff spot. Kansas City is still in a strong position to make the playoffs, 93%, and win the division 91%, even if it loses. There's more volatility for Cincinnati, though. A win gives Cincinnati a 51% chance of making the playoffs, while a loss drops those odds all the way down to 7%. Massive. MF, number 2 game of the week. Both teams are struggling, to say the very least. Cincinnati, they were doing really well up until they ran into Pittsburgh last Saturday. But Kansas City, I mean, what is going on with the Super Bowl champs? They're playing like chumps. I'm sorry.
No, they are. A lot of people don't know. And I think that's the big question is why is this happening? Did KC peak too soon? I don't know. I kind of feel like they let themselves down on this one. But with everything riding on the line, I gotta feel like Casey's gotta turn it around. At some point, they're gonna flip that switch, and we're gonna see the Kansas City of old rise up. I just think they kind of played down against KC, and I think that's what caused the trouble there. I don't know. I feel like at the end of the day, I feel like KC's going to win this game. They're hearing enough negativity. They're hearing a lot of problems. You're hearing all the drama. I think KC's going to win it. I feel like they got to win this game. It's a must win. It's a now or never for them. So I think KC wins the win of the division. Michael Bullock, I give it to you.
Yeah, I gotta go with Kansas City as well. I think they're gonna turn it around, and they're gonna somehow win the division once again. So yeah, give me KC to win this one. So it's yours, Florio.
Absolutely. If this game is anything like Bengals Chiefs games from recent seasons, it will come down to the end. There are 4 games from the last 2 years, 2 in the regular season, and the last 2 AFC Championship games have been decided by exactly 3 points. If it's a similar scenario this time, it has to favor the Cincinnati Bengals. The Kansas City Chiefs have been unable to rally for a win in the fourth quarter this season. Chiefs rookie Rashee Rice goes for 125 receiving yards. Bengals defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo will make it a point to keep Travis Kelce from doing significant damage against Cincinnati. This should leave a lot of favorable matchups for Rice, who has a team-high 41 targets for Kansas City in the last 4 games. Patrick Mahomes needs 329 passing yards to pass the late, great Hall of Famer Len Dawson at 28,507 for the most in Chiefs franchise history. The X factor here is Bengals wide receiver Tyler Boyd. If Jamar Chase is out again, just so much falls on the shoulders of T. Higgins. Jake Browning and the Bengals need a second weapon, and Boyd, if he plays at his best, can be just that. Rice faces a Bengal defense that gives up the 9th most fantasy points a game to wide receivers. Over the last 5 games, he has averaged 10 targets and almost 19 fantasy points. Chiefs are 10-18 against the spread in their last 28 games when laying at least a touchdown. The FBI likes FBI loves Kansas City here. 73%. It's a 73% FPI for Kansas City by an average of 8 points. But it's going to be close. I got Kansas City. I got to go with Kansas City. I think, though, I'll give them one more chance. But God forbid they lose this game. Who knows if I can trust them going forward. 27-23. Kansas City defeats Cincinnati. But I would not at all be surprised if Cincinnati stole it. Final game of the night. Sunday Night Football on NBC. The Green Bay Packers squaring off against the Minnesota Vikings. U.S. Bank Stadium, Minneapolis. You know who's working in it as always. Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, Melissa Stark. They played earlier in the season at Lambeau. Minnesota won that game 24-10. So Green Bay's series lead has been cut down to 64-57 with 3 ties. Last year in Minnesota won 23-7. Minnesota's won the last 2 meetings at home against Green Bay. 23-7 last year, 34-31 in 2021. Green Bay last one in Minnesota in 2020, 43-34. Before I give it to you, Bullock, to lead off this time, it's pretty much a must-win game for both teams. There's more of a range for the Packers, who would have a better than 50-50 shot at the playoffs with a win, 52%, but would be on the brink of elimination with a loss, 0.4%. It's not as extreme a spread for Minnesota, but they need to win. Their playoff hopes go from 39% with a win all the way down to 2% with a loss. So, Bullock, this game is massive for both of these teams. Green Bay, Minnesota, who you got?
This is big for both teams here. I can definitely say it, and But yeah, for Minnesota, they're starting a rookie quarterback in this game. So yeah, I'm interested to see how that's going to play out, especially with Justin Jefferson, if he'll help out. But I don't know, man. I got to go with the Green Bay Packers. I really think they really need this more. I mean, yeah, but if Minnesota were to win, I would not at all be surprised. But give me the Green Bay Packers. It's yours, Florio.
I forgot to mention Minnesota opening up as only a 1-point favorite. It's a 1-point spread for Minnesota, by the way. All right. The Vikings are once again turning to rookie quarterback Jaren Hall, largely because they are out of options after Nick Mullins threw 6 interceptions in 2 starts, and Joshua Dobbs was unable to move the offense at the end of his stint as a starter. Ordinarily, Hall's grand total of 22 previous offensive snaps at the NFL level would be a concern in a game with such obvious playoff implications. But the Vikings are fortunate that he will be playing against a Packer pass defense that has allowed a 62 QBR to opposing quarterbacks since the start of Week 11, 4th worst defensive mark in the league over that period. Packers will have their first 100-yard receiver of the season. This after Aaron Jones gave them their first 100-yard rusher of the season in last Sunday's win at Carolina. It's not that the Vikings are giving up gobs of yards through the air. They rank 17th in the league, allowing 226 passing yards a game. But it's bound to happen for Green Bay. Christian Watson has twice had games in the 90-yard range. Dontavion Wicks has a 97-yard outing. Romeo Dobbs has a 95-yard game. And Jaden Reed has 2 in the 80s. The Vikings are 1-8 when losing the turnover battle this season, the most such defeats in the NFL. They are 6-0 when they don't lose the turnover differential. The Vikings' 30 turnovers are tied with the New York Jets for the second most in the NFL this season. Only the Cleveland Browns have more at 32, and they are the Vikings' most since they had 32 in 2013. The X Factor, Packers cornerbacks Carrington Valentine and Eric Stokes. With Jair Alexander suspended, those two will likely have to contend with Justin Jefferson in what promises to be a tough assignment. KJ Osborne has averaged about 21 fantasy points a game over his career when he has seen 7 or more targets. After losing TJ Hawkinson for the season, Osborne is expected to play a larger role in the Viking passing game. Primetime unders are 33 and 17 this season and 156, 102, and 4 over the last 5 seasons. FPI slightly likes Green Bay, 53% by an average of 1 point. I got to give the slight edge to Green Bay here. 21-20. I think Green Bay will eke it out. So, but you never know. Jaren Hall, we'll have to wait and see. So I don't feel comfortable with that. So I'm going to go Green Bay 21-20. Nothing left for me to say except take us home, MF.
Tight game, close game, good matchup to say the very least. But I'm in total agreement with you boys. I'm going with Green Bay to win as well. Anthony, let's close it for the night.
And that will indeed put the bow on this Week 17 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in all year long and all season long, as always, even though we have one more week left. But our final show of 2023. And gentlemen, all I can say is what a great year we've had here. With our family of shows, whether it's Talking Wrestling TXN, whether it's Ridiculously Raw, the Cerebral Smack Talk, Wednesday Night Madness, our TXN Sports World regulation shows, the NFL show, the college football show. It's been a great year, a successful year, and we can't do it without each and every one of you. We thank you all so very much for your support all year long and going forward. We're going to be taking the next few days off for New Year's, but we will be back with you Tuesday night at 10:30 for a special Tuesday night edition of Ridiculously Raw, where we will review the AEW World's End pay-per-view and the first Monday Night Raw of 2024. Wednesday, same time, it'll be the first Wednesday Night Madness of 2024, hosted by good old MF Michael Fletcher, as it will be NXT's New Year's Evil and AEW Dynamite. And then Friday night, the regular season finale of TXN Sports World NFL Friday, Week 18, all divisional matchups. Every game next week will be a divisional game. Notable games, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens, the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals, the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions, the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts. Of course, the big one, as it's shaping up right now, the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. A game that could be for the AFC East. You never know. Also, the Atlanta Falcons and the New Orleans Saints, Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants, the LA Rams and the San Francisco 49ers, Jacksonville and Tennessee, and that's pretty much, and Dallas and Washington. We'll see. So we'll get into all of it next week. And that's it. So until Tuesday night, for the special Tuesday night edition of Ridiculously Raw to start off 2024, it's Anthony Florio here for Good MF Michael Fletcher, for Michael Bullock, and in spirit, of course, always and forever, the First Lady, Dee Dee Woodson. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah. Throw it up Fortune 4 style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed few days. And on behalf of all of us here at TXN Sports World, we want to wish every one of you out there a very happy new year. Please keep it safe on the roads. Don't do anything stupid. That's all. That's all. We cannot stress that enough. And with all that, until Tuesday night, you have been watching the Week 17 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Friday, right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube and StreamYard.com. For everybody who's been a part of this one, for now, Anthony Florio. So long. Bye, everybody. Bye, and Happy New Year, friends.
Happy New Year, everybody.